Hey guys, what's up? It is week 204, and let's start this out with the announcement of the contest. So, at week 208, the 4-year anniversary of this show, I am going to draw the winner. There's only going to be one winner, but for a chance to win the 4 new Severin releases, 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays, including Perdita Durango, great movie by Alex de la Iglesia. Same director as Day of the Beast, also an excellent movie. Both these 4Ks look great. I covered them a couple weeks back. Nosferatu in Venice, starring the insane Klaus Kinski and Donald Pleasance and Christopher Plummer, and A Scream in the Streets, which is almost like a roughy, cheapy, gross kind of exploitation movie. So if you'd like to win all 4 of these, it's very simple. Instead of the typical email we use, I am going to switch it up because now with the Google accounts and stuff, it's the sign-ins and are very complex. Not complex, but they're just a little bit different. It's a little bit agitating. So if you'd like to be entered, please send an email to davidparker1986@live.com, and in the title or whatever in the top, put contest. You're going to have a while to do this. I will draw week 208. That's all you have to do. It would be nice if you were subscribed or you gave the video a thumbs up, but I'm not going to track that or anything. So go ahead and shoot an email to David Parker at 1986 at live.com, and I'll put all that information below. But yeah, these things are awesome. They're loaded with features. These 2 were 2 of my favorite releases of the year, and I enjoyed Nosferatu in Venice. The documentary about Klaus Kinski is fantastic, and A Scream in the Streets, it's really trashy. So if you want a chance to win these 4, that's all you have to do. If you're a patron member or anything like that, you're automatically added to it. So I guess we're going to hop into, and I will ship international. It might take a little longer to get there and figure everything out, but I will. So I guess we're going to hop into the reviews, and we're approaching the end of the 2005 watches for me. There's a bunch in this and not too many new releases. Pretty soon that'll be over. I am very sick of 2005, I'll tell you that. But the first movie is a newer film, and this is The Bloodhound from Arrow Video. This is actually streaming on their streaming service as well. If you're interested in checking it out before you buy it, you can sign up. I think they have a free trial at certain, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's not very expensive monthly either. So anyways, I guess this is a modern telling or updated version of The Fall of the House of the Usher, which has been a long time. I believe I have actually read that story by Poe, but I most definitely have seen the Vincent Price Corman movie. So yeah, it's been a long time since I watched that one too, but it definitely follows the same kind of story, to be honest. So we have this isolated brother and sister. Basically, this young man writes his friend a note, and it kind of opens up with him, I believe, reading the note, and they're kind of corresponding back and forth, and he decides to show up to his friend's house, and they decide that there's it's a very strange situation. It seems that the other friend is kind of down on his luck, maybe a little bit having some financial troubles, and the other one, that's exactly what he doesn't have, is financial troubles, but he has a lot of mental problems and everything like that. So it's very awkward relationship, him showing the house. It's just large, kind of like it's a beautiful house, but it's just something off-putting about it, and it's just a relationship kind of picture between them, and the sister's nowhere to be found, and he's claiming that she's kind of lost her mind and things like that, but it's obvious that he's starting to slip from reality as well. I mean, like I said, for the House of Usher, to me, I always remember Vincent Price going down the hallway and being like, talking about all his family members who have kind of fallen to mental illness, and this is definitely hereditary thing here in this one. So, like I said, the acting's really solid, and there's definitely a lot of tension between the two, and at some points it's just like you get kind of sucked in. There's lots of good dialogue between them, and there's a point when he reaches over and like grabs his leg or something along those lines, and that part I was just like, oh yeah, I definitely felt that kind of tension in here too. But yeah, I like the ending, how it unfolds. It just plays in perfectly. I just can't talk about this one too much without spoiling it, but it's well shot. Has good atmosphere, and there's some good features on here as well. And the filmmaker, the director, was actually talking about it, and he was like, I wasn't the hugest Poe fan, but just the first page of the story like sucked me in to the point where I wanted to actually make kind of my own rendition of this. And I think it's his directorial debut. On the features, they mentioned that they shot a lot of this during the day, so they had to and a lot of the movie takes place at night. So besides the exteriors, of course, they didn't do day for night, but they kind of blackened. They made like this giant like thing that they put outside, like a tent to cover all the windows and everything. And I didn't even notice that. So I thought they did that really effectively. I had no idea that they actually were kind of doing that thing. So yeah, sometimes you can tell with that kind of stuff, like, especially low budget movies. They'll put like garbage bags on the windows. Guilty of it, you know. So, but I didn't notice anything like that. Like I said, without spoiling too much, but if you know the story, you kind of know where you're going. And it just really, this whole movie's it's a two-person film, and the acting's solid, and I enjoyed the characters. Yeah, and check it out. It is a Bloodhound, and there's a very strange element with the Bloodhound itself. I don't want to, almost surreal for sure. So yeah. Okay, this next one here is from Dread Central or Epic Pictures, and this is Sacrifice. This actually stars Barbara Crampton, obviously from the Stuart Gordon Reanimator phase and all that kind of stuff. So, or fame, not phase. But she's in a slew of stuff. She's actually been acting a lot more, been in a slew of more movies and everything like that lately. I've been seeing her pop up in tons of stuff, like Puppet Master Littlest Reich. So she's definitely having a renaissance. Always been very fun actress to watch. So Sacrifice. Okay, this is kind of an interesting film. I'm seeing a lot of negative reviews, but I was a little bit higher, I guess, on it than a lot of other people. I thought it was pretty decent, pretty all right. So what we have is the opening. We see this woman kind of scurrying away in the night and taking her young son and getting on a boat and leaving. And then we kind of fast forward to some years down the line, and we have this young man and his. I feel like they may be possibly a newly wed couple, but she is pregnant and she's quite a bit along. So they're traveling to, I believe it's Norway, and he's found out that his mother has recently died, so he's inherited his father's and his mother's old house that was in Norway. So he ends up going there, and right away the house is it's kind of a strange situation to be in general, and there's a strange vibe in this whole place. It's very isolated. I believe it's even on an isolated island in this area off the coast and all that kind of stuff. So the location is beautiful. There's lots of these great mountainscapes in the background, and just it looks excellent. That's probably the best thing the movie has going for it. My hair's driving me crazy today. The best thing it probably does have going for it is actually the location, to be honest. So he gets there, and right away him and his wife have a run-in with the locals, and they're giving him a hard time until he basically says who he is. And then we start to realize that something strange happened with him and his family in the past, and why his mother had to leave. And they start to have nightmares and stuff like that. And the thing with one of the characters is having all these nightmares, and I was kind of like, okay, this is getting real. The first nightmare happened, I was like, this is really lame, and then it kept happening. I was like, you're really burning that too much. And after a while, I started to come around to it because there's an explanation in the film that it actually pertains to the particular island. And I was like, all right, that's kind of cool. That's kind of neat. But it's very Lovecraftian. Most definitely Lovecraftian, and it even does kind of the colors that you would associate with it in more modern films, the pinks and stuff. Ever since From Beyond, those pinks and those neon colors have always been there. But we start to have like these visions of tentacles and stuff like that. And being in that isolated island, I kind of enjoyed that. And we have the Norwegian like folklore stuff, the Scandinavian folklore tying directly in with the Lovecraftian mythos and stuff. So pretty soon we start to realize that there is definitely some sort of cult on this island, and I'll leave it at that. I thought the acting was decent. I mean, really, there's like 3 or 4 main characters. Barbara Crampton's accent, I don't know a Scandinavian accent all that well, but it is a strange accent, to be honest, and it's kind of a hard one, I would say, to do. There's a point in the film where her and the lead male have this exchange where they kind of break down what happened with the parents, and I thought that there was some, decent acting within their eyes and everything, showing emotion and stuff, some depth depth. Yeah, this one was okay for me. I think that it has some comparisons to Dead Waters, or is it Dark Waters, the one from '95? It might be Dark Waters, the Italian film, really underrated movie. That's a fantastic movie. I don't think it's as strong as that one, but I do think it shares similarities. I was okay with it. I thought it was pretty decent, and I love the location of it, and the setup's good too, and kind of a twisted setup, to be honest, if you think about it. It's just a kind of situation that would be absolutely awful to be in. But yeah, that is Sacrifice. Check it out. It's pretty decent. Oh, I should mention the one other thing that I found kind of interesting is that the cult is led by a female, but a lot of the characters within seem very chauvinistic, and I think that maybe that is a front at certain points how the movie does turn out, but I think also it's just a very strange kind of thing about the film. So check it out. It's Sacrifice. Okay, the next one I watched, because we're doing the summer series, I've been watching a lot of 2016 and 2017 movies. That's the years I got. So I checked out Shin Godzilla. Now, I know there was a Godzilla movie that was made in, 2014, that had a lot of popularity, I believe. I did not watch that one. So I've seen Godzilla movies here and there, the original and a handful, like 85 versus Ballante versus King Ghidorah, the one from the 90s. So I've seen a lot of Godzilla stuff just growing up, too. So I am not like a Godzilla fanatic. I don't have like an obsession with Godzilla. So if Godzilla is not done to the specifications of fanatics, I wouldn't really know. I basically have seen just a handful of Godzilla films, Final Wars and stuff, and I enjoy pretty much all of them that I've seen. But Shin Godzilla is definitely a different take on what I've seen on Godzilla. It's just basically restarting it. It doesn't follow any of the other Godzilla films, but it does share a lot of the similarities in Godzilla, where we'll have these giant, scary attacks, and then we'll have something along the lines of, your kind of people talking, bureaucracy, and all that kind of stuff for long periods of time, which is very much a Godzilla film. If anybody's seen like them, they'll be like a lot of talking, or sometimes they'll fill that in with science fiction and insanity and that kind of stuff. But anyways, this one starts off kind of being based in like the real world. What if there's a real world Godzilla attack, and how would the governing people handle all that kind of stuff? So in the beginning, we have this leak that like all this water starts to rush into this tunnel under the ground, and nobody knows what caused it off the coast. I mean, it's in Japan, so nobody knows what's caused it. So they're wondering if it's possibly some volcanic eruption, and then somebody brings up the fact that maybe it's a giant marine animal, and they kind of laugh that off. But soon enough, they realize that it is something like that. And before long, Godzilla emerges on the land, which they did not think was possible, and everybody's shuffling around trying to figure things out, and they have to cut through all this red tape to get it done. And before all this kind of stuff, people are dying, and there's tons of destruction and all that kind of stuff. What's interesting is when Godzilla initially came out, he was more of an amphibious creature and like in the evolutionary state where he could not walk. His hands were kind of sucked in. So he's really weird, and his eyes are large, and he has these large gills. So I was like, is Godzilla going to look like this the entire movie? I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was kind of crazy that I can imagine so many people, Godzilla fanatics, being so upset that he's going to look like this. But pretty soon he starts to evolve. He gets bigger. He gets larger. He looks more like the Godzilla we're familiar with, but not 100% accurate how Godzilla actually does look in a lot of the films. He kind of changes film to film, but he becomes super powerful and awesome. And before long, we have the kind of atomic rays, and he's just a so scary Godzilla because he can shoot. I don't want to spoil anything, but they of course tried to stop him and all that kind of thing. And they have these different methods, and before long we realize he's pretty indestructible. And they have this elaborate plan to save Japan. And of course we have the thing that we had with the, 85, where we have the big kind of Japanese people wondering if they should have the United States American forces help them with nuclear attacks and all that. And we have those debates. And then we also have like a lot of the storyline with all these people trying to save Japan, and it's filled with a bunch of familiar faces that I recognize right off the bat. Some of them I don't know their names, just pop up in a bunch of these movies, but I did notice that Shinya Tokumato from the director of all these like Iron Man, Tetsuo Iron Man, and a bunch of other stuff, and he's also an actor in like Ichi the Killer. I recognized him right. I was like, hey, there he is. That's awesome. So it was really cool that he was in there, and I imagine a lot of these actors wanted to be involved with this Godzilla movie. So I thought that was pretty neat. The ending's really cool. I like the characters, and people die that that I did not expect to die, and that's the first Godzilla movie I saw where a bunch of people bit it that I was like, I did not see that coming. So it's a pretty intense movie, and it's pretty scary. You know, Godzilla, when he attacks the buildings and attacks things, he can be pretty terrifying if it's taken pretty serious. So anyways, Shin Godzilla, I thought it was a pretty good movie, pretty scary, good, you know, ecological kind of thing too at the same time. But it's just such a different take on Godzilla, but it shares obviously similarities. I mean, there's a giant, somewhat radioactive lizard thing destroying the city, so how different can it be? But yeah, Shin Godzilla, I really dug it. Check it out. Okay, the next one was a Patreon pick from Tristan Collier again. This is his last of the month, or last of the 4 picks I drew. And this is Lost Highway by David Lynch. He said, pick a David Lynch movie I have not seen. So I decided to pick Lost Highway. It was kind of slim pickings. I feel like I've seen of all his big ones, like I've seen Wild at Heart, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive. Geez, what else is there? Elephant Man, Eraserhead. So I think there's a couple other ones. One of the ones like Straight Story. And then there's another Inland Empire, I think. And I've seen Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. So I've seen like pretty much all his films except a handful. So I went with Lost Highway, which was the one that I seemed like it would be more up my alley, more kind of drawn in that world of Mulholland Drive or something like that. So okay, when I was watching the credits roll by, I was just amazed. I knew that Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette were in it, and Robert Blake, just some of the bigger names that are kind of plastered all over the trailer and the movie and everything, and the people everybody brings up with when they're there. So basically, it was going through the cast. It was like Gary Busey. I was like, oh wow, cool. And it's great because I just watched Ginger Dead Man, which is probably Gary Busey at his worst, but and later Gary Busey's a little bit different of an acting beast, but he was really good in this and he did a great job. So I'm like, no, it's just Ginger Dead Man's not a real movie. I shouldn't say that, but you know, I mean, it's just it doesn't care about anything. So I was watching this and I was like, oh, I saw his name. Richard Pryor was in here. There's just a bunch of people that were popping up, and I was just kind of surprised. Balbazar Getty. Just a really good, strong cast. Jack Nance, obviously a Lynch regular, R.I.P. So, oh, geez, I don't even know how to go about this. This is the first. I kind of always noticed this, but this is the most noticeable it has been to me. All David Lynch's movies to me are just, besides obviously Eraserhead and Elephant Man, all seem just like very twisted film noir movies, like with a femme fatale. They have these film noir aspects to them so much, mystery and the story unfolding, and this one too. I do not know how to go about this film on a one view. You know what I mean? This is like a shared consciousness, body hopping, time jumping, weird ass movie. Okay, so Lost Highway follows the story of Bill Pullman, who is a jazz musician, and he's married to Patricia Arquette. Their relationship seems okay. So one day they decide to it seems a little shaky. They're going to this party, and while he's there, Robert Blake approaches him. He's very strange, very creepy, and he says, starts talking to him. He's like, I'm at your house. He's like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. And he hands him his phone and says, call home. He hands him a mobile phone and says, give your house a call. And on the line is Robert Blake talking to him while he's staring at him directly. And it just sets this weird kind of thing here. And then one night, they've complained to the police officers about someone breaking in and filming them, kind of like Cachet or something like that, the film. And it turns out that Patricia Arquette is murdered. And, of course, all signs point to Bill Pullman. But one day when he's in his cell, all of a sudden, some weird electrical seeming storm happens. And Bill Pullman's no longer in his cell, but Balbazar Getty is. And Balbazar Getty is this mechanic from somewhere else. And it's very baffling to everybody involved. So Balbazar Getty is let out of prison. He's scarred and beaten at first. He looks all messed up, and he starts to work backwards mechanic shop. And he has a special customer in Robert Liotta, who has a girlfriend in Patricia Arquette that catches his eye. So they start a strange relationship. And it turns out that there possibly could be one character or two characters or alternate reality characters. But I feel like this movie is shared consciousness, jumping through and almost like two people taking care of somebody else. It's really weird. I don't know how to explain this, okay? This is a weird movie, or possibly a revenge. It's so bizarre, and on one watch, I can't grasp it. David Lynch's movies, to me, are always like, they make sense while you're watching them, and you understand that there's something going on that works. But when you go to talk about it, you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it makes sense and it's there and it's something different. I never feel like I'm like, that's bullshit, this is nonsense. I always feel like, oh, that makes sense. Like it's a connective tissue to everything, like point A to point B, even if it is almost nonsense. Like I understand why people say his movies are like dreams, because it makes sense while you're watching it, like when it makes sense while you're dreaming. But when you wake up and try to explain it, you're missing, the feeling or the emotion or that thing that ties it together. I don't know how the hell to explain this to anyone without watching it again and again and again. And then when I probably would be like, okay, that's that when I'm watching it. And then if I were to turn around and it'd be like, so here's what happened, I would be like, But besides that, the soundtrack's really good. I don't know how somebody like David Lynch could incorporate Rammstein and stuff like that and make it good and make it interesting. Genuinely, some great scares. Of course, the telephone call scare with Robert Blake is great. The dark hallway is terrifying. Yeah, it's just a weird movie. And seeing Richard Pryor in here was bizarre after watching Blue Collar last week or the week before, and Gary Busey the week before. It's just like, oh wow, David Lynch just brings out really good performances out of people. Richard Pryor, I've never seen do a bad job. It's just strange to see him in here. Robert Loggia is fucking fantastic in it. Cracked me up, especially when he pulls over a reckless driver and beats the shit out of him and says, you know that 1 in 5 people killed cars. Just goes on this whole tirade and everything. It's just a great movie. Looks great, sounds great. Really love this one. I would definitely check it out. Just weird and different, and good too. Good stuff. Okay, now we're going to hop into the Survive '05 movies. Not too many to talk about. I mean, there is, but they're all going to be quick. And this first one is The Glass Trap. Now, we covered this on 22 Shots in the bonus of what we watched. I think it's going to be volume 10 or something like that. But I'll just be brief with it because I want to do all the 2005 movies on this show as well. So, Glass Trap, directed by Fred Olen Ray, feels 100% like a TV movie, but I don't know if it is. It stars C. Thomas Howell, Stella Stevens, Martin Kove, Orville Ketchum from the Hard to Die and Sorority House Massacre Part 2. His real name is like Peter Sporlos or something like that. He's in Guyver, so he's in this as well. Who else is there? Andrew Prine from Grizzly and that stuff. So the good thing about this movie is that Fred Olen Ray likes movies, so he incorporates, character actors he likes. So he throws a bunch of them in there. So basically the plot of this is kind of nonsensical. We have these trees getting delivered to this high-rise kind of business place or whatever the hell it is. A bunch of people are there. But what happened is these giant ants are on it, or somehow they're small, but then they must crawl off and grow big. I don't understand how the fuck it works. Don't ask me, I'm not a scientist, and it doesn't work like that anyways. But anyways, these giant ants are caught in this place, and it's shut down, and they can't get out, and the giant ants go around killing everybody. It's kind of a stupid movie, to be honest, but it's very, this can be fun. Most of the stuff is CGI. When they're CGI, they look obviously what you'd expect, terrible 2005 low-budget CGI, but they do some practical occasionally, and I think they look okay. C. Thomas Howell as a janitor is pretty miscast. I can't buy him as a janitor. Stella Stevens as like the cutthroat business lady is pretty hilarious, like her. Martin Kove saves the day coming in as the special forces kind of backup guy who's absolutely ridiculous, chomping on cigars and just making quips with his sunglasses on. Hilarious. Andrew Prine as the sheriff is fairly decent. Peter Sporlos as the kind of angry, confused guy running the greenery shop or whatever. He's expected as expected. It's okay. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate my time with it. The first 20 minutes, it was very formulaic, and I was getting very bored and irritated. But after that, I kind of just fell into the zone, and I enjoyed Glass Trap for what it is. Not fantastic, not horrible. A couple of blood moments, gory stuff. Not super gory, just some blood spray and stuff like that. Not absolutely horrible. But hey, if it sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. I don't think it's purposely made bad or anything like that. I mean, I don't think that it's fantastic either, but it is what it is. It is Glass Trap, a giant killer ant movie from 2005. Okay, this next one I'll be kind of brief with, and this is The Jacket, starring Jennifer Jason Leigh, Keira Knightley, and of course Adrian Brody, and Chris Christopherson. Love Chris Christopherson. So I had never seen this one. I had heard about it here and there, and this is one of the ones that I asked out of all the movies I had left for 2005, which there's like 300 movies from 2005, horror movies or horror thrillers or whatever you want to call them. And this was one that stuck to me, so I put a list of about 30 films, and this is one that a couple people show that I should watch. So I pop it in, and it opens up in the Iraq War, and some narration. Adrian Brody talking about the first time he died. He takes a bullet to the head as he's going back to the basically home, and he's hitchhiking, and what happens is he accepts a ride from a guy. The guy murders a cop. He basically gets blamed for it. He loses his memory. And he ends up in an insane asylum because nobody can. They obviously think that he has suffered from the war and suffered from this incident and can't remember anything. So he's put into this experimental kind of experiment by Chris Christopherson, where they put him in a jacket and they give him drugs and put him in a like deprivation kind of like spot where they keep bodies, and he's supposed to kind of have a recall of what happened. It turns out they do this to many prisoners, but instead of having that, he starts to kind of get some of that information back, but he starts to time travel. And before the framing murder happened, he actually met a young girl and her mother, and was very kind to her. And he starts to jump to the modern times, or more 20 years later or something along those lines, and talk to this little girl as an adult, and they need to figure out the case. He starts to learn things and tell the people back at the asylum and all that kind of stuff. It's a decent movie. Adrian Brody's all right in it. Chris Christopherson I always enjoy seeing. Jennifer Jason Leigh is always good. The acting's decent for the most part. It does have a decent kind of cold feel, like, and a lot of the movie takes place in the winter, and I think that works. There's a couple parts that remind me of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that I think are just Daniel Craig's also in here, kind of in a weird, bizarre role, as a guy with like a nervous, crazy who tried to murder his wife. Like I said, part of it is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and that part is not as successful, I don't think, but it's okay. Daniel Craig is ridiculous. He's okay in it. It's not like a great performance like he is in Road to Perdition or something like that, or Knives Out, but he's all right. This one's all right for me. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it decently, and it comes together as a time travel movie fairly all right. I mean, time travel is very kind of weird anyways, right? It's just a situation. Like, if you did that, would mess up this, it doesn't necessarily make sense. So what can I say about it? This is The Jacket. Okay, this next one here is Hellraiser Deader. That's right, the 7th Hellraiser film. And let me say this first. I love Hellraiser 1 and 2. Two of my all-time favorite horror films. 3 I like. 4, it's been a long time. 5, 6, I think I watched 90% of 5, and I watched 6. So, like, I don't hate any of the Hellraiser movies, but I really adore the first 2, and I hold those for any of the other sequels to kind of a high standard. Like, none of them really should have been this bad in comparison to the other ones, but that's how franchises are, right? So, we all know the story with Miramax basically having to make Hellraiser movies and pump them out so they didn't lose the rights. So they constantly made subpar movies in a rushed way and gave a lot of younger directors a shot. Now, whether they tried or not, I don't know. We know the movies were rushed. So there we go. So Hellraiser Deader. All right. So this one kind of has a basic story. It's kind of like the storyline of Zombie, right? We have this investigative reporter who covers these kind of crazy stories. Like, in the beginning, she goes undercover as like a junkie to write about the junkie's experience and all that stuff. So there's like this thing that is sent to the paper called, or they stumble upon it, called Deaders. And the Deaders are people that somehow commit suicide but come back to life. And she's going to go kind of in this, I think she's going to Europe or some other country. I can't remember exactly where she's going. And find who the Deaders are and kind of infiltrate their gang and write this article about them. It turns out that the Deaders are directly involved with the Cenobites and the box, the lament configuration, and all that kind of stuff. So she ends up diving into here, and she ends up kind of meeting the leader of these Deaders, who is this kind of corny bad guy in the vein of like a poor man's Nyx, or anybody like Chris Angel, anybody in that kind of vein. Like, I would say Nyx only because it's a Clive Barker character. Nyx is fantastic, but one of these kind of, he's more acts like Swan from Lord of Illusions, but he's just kind of a lame character who's like, yes, just your generic cult leader, like pretty boy guy who manipulates people. He sucks. So, anyways, this actress, I can't think of, the actress is kind of a big name. Is she one of the ladies from Sex and the City or something like that? Anyways, she infiltrates them, but at what cost, right? She starts to have these warped kind of like reality and everything like that, and becomes what a Deader is. And it turns out the Deaders are at war with the Cenobites or some bullshit like that over the lament configuration. I don't know. Pinhead's in it like for 5 minutes, which is not horrible, to be honest, because Pinhead and the Cenobites pop up in the Hellraiser 1 only for a brief moment, but still they're fucking fantastic and terrifying in it, and they just add to the greatness of the movie. But the story in the original Hellraiser is a fantastic story with Julia and Frank and Kirsty and her dad and all that stuff. So I like that. I love that. This story is not as interesting to me. It's just kind of a journalistic kind of storyline here, which could be all right, but it also is just corny and does never keeps my attention. The music isn't great. The acting is not fantastic. The lead's okay, but besides that, the acting is kind of shitty. The dialogue's shitty. She ends up going and meeting like a lead, and she goes into this train station where there's this guy sitting there. Like there's a whole like weird kind of party sex scene thing, and there's tons of nudity in there, which I was like, oh, that's kind of surprising here. There's even full frontal male nudity, which kind of shocked me, but there's a lot of cheesy stuff going on too, like rave music and like just light bondage stupid shit, and it's just like I feel like it's just like this is the kind of stuff that Clive Barker's into. This is Hellraiser shit, man. So we're gonna throw an end here. It's gonna be awesome. It's not awesome. It's not Hellraiser shit in quotations or whatever you want to do. So anyways, this movie's just bleh for me. I mean, I don't really care for it. And I know people are like, if that wasn't a Hellraiser movie, you'd like it more. Yeah, maybe I would. But if it wasn't a Hellraiser movie, it never got made. And there's probably a reason for that. So who gives a shit? I just, when people are like, you hold those movies to a higher standard than you should, blah, 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 if it was a movie. But it is. It is a Hellraiser movie. And it does have that caveat that this is a sequel that was made so they wouldn't lose the rights. And maybe I see things that aren't there, or the cheapness or the crappiness that I shouldn't be paying attention to, but I see it. And I don't care for the movie. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's just kind of bleh. And it's there. And I don't ever need to watch it again. Okay, this next one from 2005 is a serial killer flick called Antibodies. And I've had this sitting in the collection for years from Dark Sky Films. I've always wanted to see it. This is a nuts movie, guys. Some people say it's like the German Silence of the Lambs. And at first I was like, where is that? And I was like, oh, it kind of is. So, all right. We have this crazy sexual killer. He is a child murderer, rapist. And in the very opening of the movie, we have this kind of action sequence. I don't know if it was to spice it up or reshoots or whatever like that. And there's these two cops knocking on the door for making an arrest. And one of the cops was like, man, that cop, this is a German film. So I was like, that cop looks just like Norman Reedus. That's crazy. And I was like, and then I saw the credits and it was like Norman Reedus. I was like, why is Norman Reedus in this? He has no speaking lines. He's in it for 3.5 seconds, but it's Norman Reedus. He's in it. So anyways, this criminal ends up trying to make a daring escape. It's a pretty awesome scene, actually, and he is apprehended, and then we basically start the typical kind of, interrogation and everything like that. He is at a standstill. He will not talk about it. And there, basically, we have two main characters here, and we follow them. The other main character is this cop slash farmer. He's a part-time cop of this small town farming community, and he's also a farmer. He does not get along with his father-in-law. That's an understatement. His father-in-law is a monster piece of shit that does one action in the very beginning of this movie that made me hate the father more than anything, and him for not doing anything about it right off the bat. Somebody would have been killed in that situation or very badly hurt. So anyways, there was a murder that happened that's haunting him of a young girl. He thinks it's related possibly to this German killer, this killer who was just caught. Although the MO doesn't fit 100% because this killer basically kills young boys, and the person who was killed was a young girl. At the same time, the farmer's having family problems, obviously with his father-in-law, his wife. At the same time, they seem distant, and his son. His son is just starting to have that McDonald triad where he sets fires. He's just kind of doing sexual things. He has these kind of signs that can point to him being psychologically damaged or something like that, or possible killer. So he's definitely also a man of faith. So he is repressed in a lot of ways. He ends up going to meet with this killer, and the killer somehow takes a liking to him, only wants to talk to him, kind of focuses on him, and they start this cat and mouse thing, and the killer knows something about him, and he starts to get into his head, and the detective's psychology starts to slip, and he starts to act a little bit more violent, and it all pertains to that young girl's death and everything like that. And I don't want to spoil too much because there's lots of twists and turns, and the ending has you on the very edge of your seat, and you don't know which way it's going to go. But I really liked this one. I thought it was very well made. I thought there was really disturbing moments, especially with the killer talking about his exploits as a killer, were really bothersome and stuff like that. Very very good performance by the killer, very good performance by the farmer. I thought that the guy basically in charge of the case was really good too. Anyways, I really liked this movie. I thought it was good. I thought that it went back and forth really well between the characters, and I really liked this one. Although I do not know of any poison that works like that, but hey, I'm not an expert on that stuff. Anyways, I really dug this one. It's called Antibodies. Has some really dark subject matter. Has some good twist, and I'm glad they do a couple things where you're like, oh, that's very obvious, very obvious. And you're like, is it? And then it changes some things, and I appreciated that too, because right off the bat, I kind of figured where it was going in one way, and they don't necessarily play it out exactly as you think it's going to play out. But yeah, I checked this one out. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's a just disturbing serial killer flick, and good performance from the lead killer. And I got to give him props because he was also in Theater Bizarre where he spoke English, and I always thought his performance was really shaky in that. And that's obviously just the language barrier. He's a very good actor, very intense. So, anyways, Antibodies, good stuff. Okay, this next one here is Atrocity Circle, and this is directed by Andy Kopp, R.I.P. Made in Ohio, man. Independent movies in Ohio. Got to give it up for that. Love seeing that. He directed a handful of movies, including Mutilation Mile and Quiet Nights of Blood and Pain and Black Sun, which is impossible to find on DVD. In fact, I bet all his movies are hard to find on DVD now. Wish they'd all get re-released. But you know, maybe somebody out there can get the rights and whatnot. And he obviously died, so that's a shame. Like I said. Anyways, Atrocity Circle. I covered this a while back, but I decided to kind of rewatch this one for '05. Now, first and foremost, let me say this on the top. This is no budget filmmaking. When people are like, I know low budget filmmaking, I've seen Starry Eyes. Now that's low budget. You have no idea, okay? That's the one thing that's very hard to differentiate all these low budget and people like backyard filmmaking, no do-it-yourself filmmaking, low budget filmmaking, under budget. It's just so much shit. And when I'm talking no budget filmmaking, do it yourself, I'm talking $500, a cheap camera and your friends and some ketchup packets on the weekend. Low budget filmmaking, okay? And this is what the Atrocity Circle is. So before you dive into this movie, very excited to check it out, be warned that this is a very no budget film. But okay, so this movie makes a lot of sense what it is. I know that I believe Andy Kopp worked on the script that him and Fred Vogel were going to make for a sequel to Last House on Dead End Street before Roger Watkins died. And I read that. I believe he wrote part of that, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was, I think he was going to be involved with that. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I know that some of my friends out there do know that information. I remember reading that script, and it was pretty awesome, actually. So, anyways, it makes sense that he has these subplots in here like snuff, because I feel like that was kind of a thing and that he was interested in if he was involved with Last House on Dead End Street. I know he was a fan of that movie, as he did a shout out to Roger Watkins at the end, special thanks to. So the plot here, I'm actually a big fan of this movie, and I know that the acting's not perfect. Some of the acting's really solid, especially by Jeff Berkman, who is an Ohio indie actor and a bunch of stuff. He's really good in this, a small role. But the acting is obviously, a lot of them are friends, not real actors, and they're not fantastic. But the dialogue is really solid, and I think it's really heavy dialogue for amateur actors. So I think that could be a problem, and that does happen sometimes. You got like this heavy, good dialogue and meaningful moments, and you have actors who aren't exactly, the most professional. And not a knock on anybody. I understand that a lot. Been there, done it. I am that. I am one of those actors who's not a professional actor. So there you go. So Atrocity Circle follows a story of, I think he's practicing to be a doctor, or he's working as a paramedic or something like that, a nurse. So anyways, one night, this woman is brought in, and you actually don't see his side of the story. You see the actual rape take place. This woman is raped by 3 guys, and her eyes are gouged out, and he's retelling the story to a police officer. Basically he's talking to a police officer, basically trying to help. He tells his wife, I think, initially about it, and he's just really distraught about it and horrified and disgusted. And no, it's the police officer first. And he talks to this police officer about the case, and he hands him this list of people. These are all people that have a record that possibly were in the area. Did any of these people come in for defensive wounds or anything like that? So we can kind of tie him to this case and try to find out who did it, because they gouged out the woman's eyes. And like that saying right there, like I feel like Andy Kopp has like this look at the world. It's a very dark, pessimistic look, to be honest, looking at this movie. Like it's so dark, so twisted. And it triggers this memory from his earlier in life where a friend of his was raped by some more of his friends, and he didn't do anything about it. And one of those people is actually on that list. So that sends him down this rabbit hole. And it's like this trigger, this something that triggers him to remember everything and brings him back. And he starts to seek out the people that did this, and he feels like he needs to get that part of his soul back. But after a couple of these encounters and murders and everything like that, he starts to slip deeper. And the last two people that he's going to encounter are actually some hardened criminals that run the snuff ring, they run underground pornos, work at a strip joint, that kind of thing. So they obviously add some exploitation, sleaze element in that. And then there's some revelations in the film. And the revelations in this film are what makes it stand out to me, because that idea that you don't remember things 100% how they happen and all that kind of stuff, and this reveal of, even the person that could possibly be the hero is maybe just as sick or sicker and stuff like that. And you hit this moment where you're like, man, this is dark. This is so messed up. And this is like this nasty stuff. And like, there's even moments where these characters have these conversations when they're all messed up and everything like that. And if you think like bigger actors with this stuff, I feel like they would have been able to somehow carry this tone and carry these lines a little better. But anyways, like I said, the technical aspects and a lot of the dialogue and acting is not great. But as far as the story is concerned, the story always stood with me. It always stood with me. It stayed with me because I felt that it was really dark and twisted, and it just was different than any rape revenge movie I'd ever seen. It just kind of hits you harder in a way that you're like, oh, wow, that's dark, man. That's dark and nasty. Although it gets to the exploitative level for sure. Like the second half of the movie, it just gets way over the top and crazy. But I do like it. And I do recommend people check it out. And I do wish that someone released Black Sun, which I've seen, and those other movies on DVD, widely available. And I think the only one I haven't seen is Quiet Nights of Blood and Pain. Although I think I watched Black Sun streaming on Amazon years ago, and it's no longer there. And the DVD's long out of print. So anybody help me out on Black Sun, that would be appreciated. But Atrocity Circle, it's probably the cheapest movie I watched for '05, but it's not my least favorite at all. I do like it. I do have a special spot for it too. So dark movie, different movie, no budget movie. So yeah, and like I said, I like low budget movies that are different or try. If I don't get that, that I don't give a shit stink on it, I really will enjoy it for the most part. So yeah, Atrocity Circle. Hey guys, what's up? Here for a couple reviews. The first one is going to be Corpse Bride from 2005. It's a Tim Burton movie. This is not exact. I guess it's a horror movie. It's more horror than half the shit I've covered already. For like that's more horror than Hard Candy and Cachet and stuff.
I mean, a man marries a dead girl.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a Fox movie, right? This isn't a Disney or anything.
It's not a
Fox,
Disney. Yeah. It might be a Fox. I don't know.
So this is definitely more of a precursor. Not a precursor. This is, I guess, similarities to like A Nightmare Before Christmas. And in that vein, stop motion.
Oh yeah, it's stop motion.
But in the tone and stuff, it's got all those kind of side characters that are really goofy and weird. Mm-hmm. So essentially, we follow. I don't remember the character of Johnny Depp's name, but Victor, which makes sense. Yeah. So Victor is this kind of shy, weird guy. He's tried to be married off by his parents, and there's a couple of kind of shady, formerly rich people that want to marry their daughter off to somebody that has money. So they see Victor, they want to do this arranged marriage, but poor Victor can't get his vows down. So he goes to practice in these abandoned woods, these creepy kind of woods, and he gets his vows down perfectly, but unfortunately for him, a corpse from the afterlife accepts his proposal. So therefore, Victor is hastily married to a corpse in the afterlife, and now he has a corpse bride. There we go. The end. It's very confusing for him, and of course we have this weird love triangle. There's also a shady guy who he knows evil trying to marry the real life bride here.
Yeah, Lord Barkis.
Yeah, who is actually played by Richard Grant from stuff like Hudson Hawk and Gosford Park and a bunch of other things.
I believe the corpse bride, that's Emily
Watson, isn't it? Emily Watson?
No, the character's name is Emily. Her voice actress is Helena Bonham Carter.
Okay, yeah, Emily Watson is the real life.
Is the living wife, Victoria.
We also have Albert Finney, who's great in this. And, of course, we have Christopher Lee. But we have a shout-out to Vincent Price, supposedly.
Well, I was always told that, but...
Who told you that?
I can't remember. It's,
Liar.
You're asking me 15, 16 years ago. Although The Worm
It's definitely a shout out to Peter Lorre.
is a shout out to Peter Lorre. What else can we talk about?
Well, really, it's a fun movie because when Victor goes to the afterlife, there's all sorts of weird, strange characters. There's basically a bar. It's very much like Beetlejuice or Nightmare Before Christmas, where we have these weird rules and everything like that. Like there's this head that's being carried around by cockroaches. That's the bar, like kind of guy who runs the bar.
He's the head waiter.
He's the head waiter. Does he say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's lots of goofy jokes like that are puns on what they are. It's just a fun, silly movie. There's a part at the end when there's supposed to be a wedding on Earth from the afterlife, so all the corpses invade the everyday life, and so they start to find their loved ones, which is really kind of a cute moment. But there's the little pencil thin mustache where he approaches his wife, and he's obviously a corpse and she's still alive. And she says, "But you're dead," and he does the most ridiculous Gone with the Wind line. It made me laugh just because it's so stupid. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. It's really fun. It's really cute.
The music's fantastic.
The music's really good. Danny Elfman does a great score here, and it's not like your typical boom, boom, boom like that. You know, when you hear Danny Elfman, you immediately think Beetlejuice or something really big orchestra thing.
You know, when I listen to Danny Elfman, a lot of his stuff sounds very similar. And like, if you were to play like Beetlejuice or Batman
or Darkman
back, well, I mean, like I wouldn't be able to tell you necessarily right away which one is which, but with this movie I can.
I think I could.
And I think it's because there's a lot of character themes that he uses in it. So it still sounds like Danny Elfman, but like the music stands out even more so to me. The songs in here are really cute. I like the when they're getting ready for the wedding song. I think is really nice. I like any musical number that has a large cast. If it's just one or two people singing, I'm like, I don't care. This movie was made before Tim Burton was able to convince Johnny Depp that he should learn how to sing. So his character has no singing lines. Instead, he usually communicates via piano. There's two scenes with that. And then when he went to go make Sweeney Todd, he's like, "Listen, Depp, you're my bread and butter. I need you to sing for Sweeney Todd, otherwise I don't know what we're going to do."
Johnny Depp looks like the shrunken head in Beetlejuice in this movie.
He does. I don't know. The way Tim Burton's like human characters look, like in his illustrations and stuff, is always like off-settling to me. I think it works in Nightmare Before Christmas. I don't know if it necessarily works in this. Like they look cool. They're animated fantastically. Everybody's a mutant in this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
everybody's like Albert Finney's like super short and ridiculous, and his wife's super tall. Right. Would you say that this movie would be better if Henry Selick directed it?
I don't know if it would. I think that the big problem with the movie is like the movie's story is just very
generic.
It's very generic. It's fun. Yeah. But it's not trying to have any big reveals. It's not really.
But then think about this. You don't need that in this kind of movie.
No, you don't.
How do you make a really fun movie, that light, kid-friendly movie about a man marrying a corpse?
Right.
That is such an insane Goomba. Our cat's not paying attention.
He just wants to destroy for the sake of destroying.
Because nobody's paying attention to him.
It's different. Like because it's animated just fine. Although there are certain like cutaway shots that are, I think, kind of not very lively. It's almost like they didn't want to animate, so it just kind of like filmed the puppet and like zoomed out.
I never noticed that. Is there some guys just like this, like?
I think the one in particular that always gets to me is when Victor lights the mom's dress on fire, and it like zooms in on her face for just a little bit too long, and it's like, this is clearly just a live shot, and they didn't want to animate the model, so she just like for like 2 seconds.
I didn't even notice that.
It's very minor, but it always stuck out to me. Like, why isn't there anything else going on in these couple of frames? I mean, you figured.
They do that in movies too sometimes. Like they'll do a freeze frame if they didn't get enough footage.
Right.
Like they'll show a body, but like it's supposed to be like a 3-second shot, but they only have half a second. So it's like
like all happening. The grain stops in the frame. You know what I mean?
And you're just like, what?
Huh?
I do like Christopher Lee's fun in it.
Christopher Lee is fun. Everybody's fun in it. That's the thing. I don't know if changing the director again, when you're
I
doing
was just
stop
questioning it
motion,
because he obviously did Nightmare Before Christmas.
he did Nightmare Before Christmas, James the Giant Peach, Coraline.
Just imagine how much hard work that is. You're the guy who does stop motion. That's a lot of hard.
It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of time. These puppets are fantastic, and in Nightmare Before Christmas, it was more like changeable faces, swappable heads for like getting the mouth expressions. And this one, the faces are more latex, and all the facial expressions are adjusted by inserting a screwdriver in through the ear and like
Really?
contorting them. Yeah,
That's cool.
They're really, really neat.
How many
puppets.
teeth did Albert Finney's character have?
He had
10
like
million.
48.
He had like 48
Yeah.
teeth. Look at his shark.
On
Anyways,
each row.
I would recommend it. I really enjoyed it. I'm like at a 7.5 out of 10 for it.
I saw it in theaters, and I don't know if I liked it then, but in rewatching it yesterday, I felt like I liked it a bit more.
Yeah.
I think that I would normally give it a 3, but I think I've come to appreciate it, especially like the worm character, and it has nothing to do about it being Peter Lorre. But just the amount of expression they're able to convey with just this generic little worm, it's like, this is really good. The music's really good. It's probably realistically a 4 out of 5.
For you.
For me.
All right. So we good?
I think we're good.
Okay, this next one is a blind spot, and I think we made a mistake, because last week we did the Witches, right? Did we do the Witches last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did 2 of yours in a row, which we did Witches, then Carnival Souls. It was supposed to be Cat People, so now we're going to do 2 of mine in a row, Cat People and the Innocents. So we'll do Cat People first. For next week, this week, it is Carnival of Souls by Herc Harvey, the only feature film he ever directed. It appears he directed more commercial stuff besides that, not actual films. 1962, always been an inspiration, I think, towards Night of the Living Dead, one of my favorite movies, and stuff like Messiah of Evil, which is very obvious. But yeah, this is a film that I always knew the basic plot point, and slight spoiler here, so if nobody's seen this, go away, because we're going to spoil it. Oh, she was there the whole time. I always knew that. So it's just like, oh, what are they going to do here? Is this going to, I know it's been ripped off a million times. It's got, I imagine, real corny, real boring, stupid shit. But it's a little bit more complex and different than that. And that really kind of surprised me, especially the first act. The first 2 acts, I think, are much better. Not much better. They're better than the last act. Would you agree?
Yeah.
You want me to get into the story of this?
Yeah, let's go on the story.
So we have a young girl. Basically, she's kind of joyriding, and her and she's in a car with her friend, and they start to kind of drag race. She goes over the bridge. Her friends never pulled out. They say that everybody's been under the water for 2 hours, and then all of a sudden she emerges walking on this nasty sandbar that is like just gross mud. And then one of the most iconic scenes with her dress kind of walking. Everybody's seen that shot. She wanders in, and basically she seems fine, but she seems very cold and aloof. We didn't know much about her before, so we don't know if these are new character traits of her or they've always been like that. So she's going to she was planning on moving out and becoming, she had a job offer as an organist at a church in, I don't know, small town, America somewhere. And she
in Utah.
Utah. So she plans on going anyways. She ends up driving, and on the way, she starts to see this haunting figure following her everywhere she goes. And it doesn't stop when she gets there. He continues to follow her, and he calls her to this strange, deserted place that has a long history that ended up being a carnival that's abandoned. And he wants to call her to the Carnival of Souls.
Well, is that why it's called Carnival of Souls?
Okay, so there we go on that. So it's in black and white. Looks great.
Sorry, guys.
No, stop it. It looks great, man.
It does look great.
It's one of the better looking movies I've seen in a long time. The cinematography's great. I love the point of views of her driving. They're really terrifying, creepy. Love the landscape shots so you can see when she's moving and stuff, and just the distance. She's fantastic looking, and there's no doubt in my mind that her physical appearance is a precursor to Night of the Living Dead's Barbara.
Yeah, definitely. She's definitely
beautiful.
inspired.
She's gorgeous. Her performance is great too. I love that she has this like cold demeanor, especially towards this really crappy, sleazy guy that's constantly trying to pick her up that lives across the hallway. He's just really kind of annoying.
Yeah, he's incredibly rapey. All the minor supporting cast in this
Really solid.
are really fantastic. You have the doctor, the landlord.
The landlord's my favorite.
The landlord,
She's great.
I think she's fantastic. The doctor.
I think creepy guy across the hallway.
Creepy guy across the hallway. The
priest.
The priest. He's the one that takes her initially to
Yeah, because she
the abandoned
spots it on the way
bathhouse.
to the town and just becomes infatuated with it.
Right.
She's drawn to it. My favorite scene in the whole movie is she initially got you. She initially comes to this the place where she spotted it, and she wants to go there alone. She says, "Can we go in?" He's like, "It's abandoned." The priest says, "I'll take you there." They go. They're standing on the outside, and she's looking in, and she obviously is drawn to it. And then we cut to the character that's been following her since her drive, and he is sitting in a second floor building far distance away, looking out the window, looking at them from like, it seems so far away, just waiting for her to come in. And it's just like, oh man, that's creepy. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and it's obviously, you know where it's going. She's dead the whole time, but like it's just that weird limbo that she's caught in, where she starts to fade out from other people too, where they can't see her in general.
Right. It's like, I don't know if she's been dead the whole time or if she's like half alive, half dead. It's really weird how
Yeah,
it works
She's
out.
she's been called to the afterlife, but she's not fully there yet.
Right, because she
It's
yeah,
like Final
but-
Destination.
yeah,
like in
but-
a way, she escaped death and she shouldn't have.
Right.
Like, you should be dead right now. There's no reason for you to be alive. Or it could possibly be she never went anywhere, and when they pulled her out of that car, she was just sitting in that car the entire fucking time, and this is her hallucination, her obvious moment in death. Like, when you die, you don't just die. You actually carry in the next 2 days in this weird limbo that you only see. That's not actually happening.
Like, unless you like come to terms that like you're dead, do you
Yeah.
continue to live your life as normal? I mean, she just went because like the movie is kind of like, I don't think it's too clear, but it's like, oh, you got that job offer, and it's only been a couple of days since she's been
And this terrific
in that-
accident
in
where
that
she lost a
horrible
friend
accident.
and all sorts of stuff. But
right, and then she just drives, across the country. I think she's originally in Kansas and she goes to Utah.
there's that beautiful line that made me laugh out loud when it's like the organist from the original place, who's been really friendly and nice with her. He's like, "Oh, I hope you have a great drive and everything like that. And if you ever come on through, come and see us again." She's like, "I'll never be coming back." It's just like he's just like, it's just, I don't know. It's a really good movie. The first, like,
It's great.
I liked it a lot.
I like the scenes where she does kind of like lose her ability to kind of like interact with the living world. Nobody can see her, hear her. There's quite a few moments where I think there's like two main scenes where she like loses that ability, where she's in the grocery store and then eventually runs into the doctor, and then again towards the ending when she's at the mechanic.
Yeah, that's creepy too, because they
Right.
raise her up in the car. It's like, "You want to get out?" She's like, "I'll stay here."
Right.
Just like she's just awkward, like weird. And even that guy who's super rapey, that seems like he'd like go nuts for her. Eventually, he doesn't want anything to do with her. Like, but she starts to figure she knows if she's alone, they'll come
Right.
for her to take her away.
Right, and she ends up having like a psychotic, because she doesn't like, he's incredibly rapey. He like shows up, he's constantly drunk. Eventually he takes her out to a bar, and she's just like not interested, not really. She says she is, but
She just doesn't want to be alone.
right, she just doesn't want to be alone. So they go back to her place, and then like she has like the mental breakdown. And then he's like, "You're too crazy for me. I'm gonna head out."
You're not worth the effort, I guess.
Right.
But there's a thing about movies where like a place could just be set, and the idea that the place is actually the most terrifying aspect of the movie is what does it for me. Like that little isolated place, like they had that location of, this place is creepy, we have to base it off this, and for some reason that really works well for me. And I know this movie is much lesser quality than Carnival Souls, but I'll mention it was The Slayer, which is an 82 video nasty kind of slasher-esque movie. But there's this shot of this like cabin, or like where they're going to stay for the weekend, and the way it's shot, it's just like, that's where we're going to die. Like, I can just tell just from the distance. And I like shots of a place that's on the horizon or a distance where you see it in the far, and you're just like, there it is. And I think they do it with The Shining too, when they build up, when they show the car traveling. I feel like when they first set eyes on the overlook later, I think that it's a haunting picture. I'm not even 100% sure if that's there, but they're definitely like, I'm just trying to think of these places where the actual location is the scariest fucking part of the movie. And I know The Slayer it's more of that, but I just feel like they set that location up very well. And the Carnival Souls and the Outlook Hotel and stuff like that's just shit. Is just generally place itself is a scary thing.
Well,
And Amityville Horror too.
Right. I wonder if that like carries over from like childhood, like, because there are places like that I passed all the time as a kid that I was like drawn to, but it was like drawn out of fear, and like when I was a kid, like we had like every decent sized town we had an abandoned orphanage.
There was an abandoned orphanage. Yeah.
And it's like, you're not allowed to go there for like, legal safety reasons, but it's like, man, I'm gonna go look at this fucking orphanage.
Yeah,
I would go in there and look at all the druggies, and I'm like, okay, this is why I'm not allowed to be here.
I've never
Let's go.
seen any druggies in it. I've always been hard pressed to believe in that kind of stuff, but I still don't want to test my choice. I don't want to test my luck at the same time. No, I thought it was a great movie, great performance, creepy.
Yeah.
Obviously very iconic, very memorable, very inspirational for future films. So, do we give our rating, or do we read the book first?
Whatever.
Okay, so I'm going to read from John Stanley's Creature Features. Where is this here? Right above Carnosaur, where it belongs. Just kidding. Carnival of Souls, 1962, 3.5 out of 5. Obscure cult favorite, was revived in 1989 with missing footage restored by producer-director Harvey Herc. It's Herc Harvey. So it's funky and crude, but compelling. If for the story avoids cliches, in fact, George Romero credits it with inspiring Night of the Living Dead. Candace Hillegloss wanders into limbo between life and death, with death's symbol tugging at her. The mood generated by Harvey and co-writer John Clifford and the oddball characters overwhelmed the amateurish to give this unique touch. The film was created around a deserted pavilion near Salt Lake City, which became a central location for the low budgeter made in and around Lawrence, Kansas, and Salt Lake. It lacks graphic shocks, but its psychological content is superior. I don't think it looks that cheap.
Yeah, I don't think it looks cheap at all.
But it was. I mean, maybe the handheld stuff. Maybe it's not even handheld. But regardless, there is a longer version of this movie.
Is there?
There is longer stuff, but we went with the short version. I think the short version's more known, but the longer version, I think, is only on the DVD from Criterion, not the Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. So, Carnival of Souls, he does 4 out of 4, right?
Yeah. I think
so he gives this a perfect movie.
I think he's right.
1962, 84 minutes. Classic eerie...
Wait. Ours was shorter than that.
Ours was shorter?
I think it was.
I can't remember.
I think it was.
Right. Well, he talks about the
there
restored scenes. So, classic eerie mood piece shot on a box lunch budget in Salt Lake City and Lawrence, Kansas. Hillegloss survives a car crash into a Kansas river and immediately leaves town for a church organist job in Salt Lake. Already aloof, she finds it increasingly difficult to relate to others and soon finds herself stalked by a mysterious pale-faced man, director Harvey. While continually drawn to a crumbling lakeside pavilion, while she's doing that, she's getting spooked by the guy.
Did they steal each other's reviews?
A haunting diamond in the rough, lost in the shuffle of early 60s quickies. It was originally code-billed with the Devil's Messenger. Yikes. Thanks to late-night TV and now video, this is finally finding an increasingly growing audience to appreciate its creepy, monochromatic charms, a.k.a. Corridors of Evil.
There was a remake, but it's not really a remake. It's in name only.
Oh.
But it's weird that they use the term aloof, because that's exactly how I describe her. Because I didn't read either of these reviews before I did the review, but aloof is the number one way to describe her.
Oh yeah, she is absolutely aloof.
9 out of 10.
I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah. What were you saying?
It's fantastic. She when she's talking with the doctor, she's saying I've never had an interest in men. I've never had interest in relationships of any kind. I think it's pretty well established. When she's going to Salt Lake, the organ builder is like, "Are you going to stop by your parents' house on the way?" She's like, "No."
Yeah.
She just doesn't have those kinds of relationships or desires.
But like I said, maybe she was more human before the accident.
I don't know.
We don't know. And that's the thing.
When she's talking with the doctor, because she does, it's not like she's been dead the whole time. She does affect the real world. It's almost like she has like a half-life, like she's like fading out.
Yes.
You know, so and she tells the doctor like, I've never had a desire, so it's not like this is a new thing. You know, the hallucinations,
But maybe those dark things coming to the surface now. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she hid it before, but now that she's having this, she doesn't care to hide it.
right,
Like anybody else has these dark sides. You know, I don't know. It's strange. It's a strange movie.
It is very strange, and then of course, you know,
And on paper, the plot, you're like, what a piece of shit. Woman thinks she's been dead the whole time. I mean, it's become such a, it's a dream the whole time. They're crazy the whole time. Like, it's become a generic trope. But surprisingly, there's a reason that this one's so great and it's been ripped off.
okay, you know, this one it's kind of it's weird because she does like affect the real world. You know, it's really hard to explain because like.
Well, yeah, she's in a limbo.
She is in a limbo, and then like in the ending when she disappears.
Well, that would be like Ghost too. Think about it.
She is kind of like a ghost.
Ghost is never seen all the time.
Right. You know, like the weirdest thing is that. Oh, you know what? No, it's not. Okay, so it makes more sense to me now. So when she disappears, because in the ending, like the officer's like following her footsteps. In
the footsteps disappear.
And the footsteps disappear. Like they just run out into the sand and it's gone. That's it. And then at that exact same time, because they never recovered the vehicle from the lake or from the river.
They pull her out of the lake.
They pull her out
to confirm her death.
And then that's when you see her body in the car. So I was like, well, it's kind of like it's weird because you would go back in time and that she was dead in the car like the whole time. It's like, no, that's not what happened. When they pulled out...
They confirmed her death.
Right, when they pulled out when they actually found the vehicle, that's when they found out that she was dead, and maybe that's why she disappeared.
Which brings up the statement on how people really feel about someone whose body's never found.
Right.
Like a serial killer victim or a person that dies in war, like their body's never buried, it's never final.
Right, so you had that, like, Schrodinger's cat. It's essentially what this is. It's like, while in the box with the poison, it's both alive and dead. I mean, you won't know until you open up the box, and that's what happened. Is the box is. But
what's in the box?
No, I'm not talking about Seven. Seven's a terrible movie.
You're so dumb. Stop! Don't say it. I just said it because it's funny. I'm good on this. You?
All right, fine. I'm good.
Next week is Cat People.
Cat People. Also about dead cats in a box.
Okay, let's get into the questions and answers and all that good stuff. So, questions. Mr. Tight White, I watched Coco Da, Shudder, and the Special Prime recently. Curious if you have seen them and your thoughts. I do recommend. No, I have not. I had Coco Da on my short list to watch for 2020, but I didn't get a chance. I really ought to watch that. I wish I did watch it for 2020. It had, you could rent it. Maybe I could count it for 2021 and cheat a little bit. Nick Mua, when it comes to that special breed called action stars, I have one rule. Their physical prowess must equal their acting ability. This is part of his answer and question, so I threw it all together for Nick Mua. But the question of the week was favorite action star and favorite martial artist action star. So this is their acting ability. This is rarely the case, though. Many very good actors require a stunt double as to not break a nail. Then there are those physical giants that have the acting range of a brick. Bruce Willis and maybe still can, both lightly. He doesn't seem to give a crap. My current pick, Tom Hardy. The things that man could do with his body, wow, and his acting is always stellar. As for the dames, I'm going with Maggie Q, a femme fatale for sure. She frightens me a little. Would you want to arm wrestle her, Mrparka? Haha. I'm not exactly sure who she is. Maggie Q. Questions. If you didn't require sleep, would you watch even more movies? Well, yeah, duh. You write, obviously, as you've made your own movies. Jeremy makes drawings. Would the pair of you ever consider doing a graphic novel? Probably not. It's just very time-consuming. I just don't have time. There's an internet storm going on about the OnlyFans phenomenon. If money were tight, would you consider it? I don't think anybody would pay for my money, OnlyFans. And how tight? I mean, I would just get another job. I mean, if somebody put a gun to my head and said OnlyFans, I'd be like, I guess I'll do it. But it's not going to be my first option. I'd probably be too embarrassed to do it. Answers. Not that I care that anybody else does it. You guys can do whatever you want. I wouldn't do it, though. I don't think I could. So we have some answers, favorite action star and favorite martial arts star. And originally the question I put on Facebook, it was messed up and it was worded strange, so I got some weird answers that are incorrect. I got basically favorite actor on some of them. So Ilk Vomit, favorite modern martial artist. And slash action star for me is most definitely Scott Adkins. Almost all his films output so far ranges from good, very good, excellent. Old school martial artist. Okay, bear with me, Dave, as these names are going to be a doozy for you. Chen Ku Tai, Yoon Biao, Samo Hung, Johnny Wang Lu Wei, Huang Jiang Li, Lung Kar Yan, aka Birdie, or Beardy, and Philip Kofei, or Fu, or Fei. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. Travis Wright, Van Damme, but for martial arts, I go Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and Stephen Chow. Isimisio, Saint Maud was good for some reason. Didn't have a lasting impression for me. The last few seconds of the film, on the film on the beach. I almost said sex on the beach there. Last few seconds of the film on the beach was haunting and extremely effective. My personal faves this year would be The Stylist and Sador, but they are a ton of 2021 watches I still haven't got to yet. The Crush is a great film. Love 90s erotic thrillers. Also nice to see Tara in that movie from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The Witches is a fun time. Quite an interesting seating arrangement you and Jeremy had there for the review, haha. Lady Vengeance is a storytelling at one of the best. I would say my favorite of the trilogy, with Sympathy being the last. I'm a fan of Donnie Yen, especially in all the IP Man films. He's a great martial artist. More of a recent favorite martial artist would be Iko Uwais from the Raid films. Amazing fight sequences those movies have. Indeed they do. Ken Coakley, my favorite martial artist is Stephen Chow. He's known in Hong Kong as the Jim Carrey of Hong Kong, but has done martial arts comedies. The first time I heard of him was in 1993 when I went to a noon to midnight Hong Kong Chinese cinema marathon. It included 2 Chow movies, Flirting Scholar and King of Beggars, 2 Jackie Chan movies, Protect Day and City Hunter, 1 Andy Lau movie, Savior of the Soul, where a phone rings in the movie and in English subtitle read Ring. The audience roared with laughter. To cap off the night, they showed a Chow Yun Fat movie, Full Contact. There was the first day of my 6-year love affair with Boston's Chinese community, and the day I became Stephen Chow's biggest fan. While Chow is a comedy actor, some of his films were kung fu comedies, including 2 movies I saw that day. There's a video on YouTube of Chow promoting Kung Fu Hustle on a German TV show, and he was asked to show some martial arts moves on the co-host, who tried to assume the crane position, and Chow showed how the crane form was done, and it was beautiful. Ralph Macchio's crane position of the Karate Kid was sloppy. Chow was supposed to direct a co-star in The Green Hornet, but that fell through. Grim Billy, I love the 2 Chinese Odyssey movies, and that's and the one where he's a chef. Okay, he's responding. And Peekaboo, yes, Stephen Chow is very highly underrated. My faves from his is Shaolin Shocker and Kung Fu Hustle. Be safe. And then his response is, sounds interesting with the documentary Movie Hoarders. Hope you are in it. Never heard of Egg before, and it sounds like something I would watch a lot of times. Many thanks once again for talking about the movies I never heard of. Castle Freak 2020, sorry for running as a Badger on crack. Meant if the movie was a remake from the 1995 one, on which you answered yes to. Sorry again for the confusion. The question of the week. Hard to name just one, so I will cheat and name a few. Jackie Chan, still he does movies. Still does movies, and this name is very hard for me. Yenin Jija Vitsamatsanant. Fuck that, sorry. So adorable and amazingly skillful in Muay Thai fighting. Iko Uwais from the Raid 1 and 2, and The Night Comes for Us. Donnie Yen, most famous for the IP movies. Jet Li, done so many great ones. Tony Jaa, another Muay Thai phenom who has done one Unbok trilogy. Sorry, sometimes like there's a language barrier here too in his writing, so there'll be like syllables that are a little off and everything. So it's a little difficult to read sometimes. The Legend Bruce Lee also. Michelle Yeoh, simply because she can kick my butt. Oh, I wish. Okay. I'm more and more into martial artists now. As a 10, 13-year-old, I guess Arnold and Stallone would have been the pick with Jackie Chan. Love the update with those old monster movies. Need to get some. Be safe and have a great Easter. Thank you. You too. And Jordan Bibby, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Lee, Mike Papa, Frank Grillo, Iko Uwais. I can't say his name. Uwais. I love the Night Comes for Us is one of the best. Peter England, he put Jack Nicholson thinking I'm an actor, and Bruce Lee. Jason Michael Willard, action film star, Bruce Lee. Martial arts film star, Scott Adkins. Jason Fetters, Chuck Norris, and Bruce Lee. J.P. Andreka, Jason Statham, Dwayne Johnson, Stallone, Arnold, Chuck Norris. I guess I don't have a favorite martial arts. Really enjoy Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Curse of the Golden Flower, and House of Flying Dragons, and Iron Monkey. Jacqueline Youngyinger, I hope it's that. Young Yinger. Sorry about that. For martial artists, Sakaguchi for sure. As for action, maybe Vin Diesel, but I don't watch that many pure action films. Kevin Keegan, Clint Eastwood, and Sammo Hung. Jamal Porter, in terms of technicality and stunts and all that, Jackie Chan. And I'll burn for saying this, but Tom Cruise is crazy motherfucker with all the stunts he pulled off in the Mission Impossible films. In terms of personality and charisma, Sly and Arnie. And then for Gin, I forgot to put Seymour, but sorry about that. David Luton, action film star, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Martial arts, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's performances with just absolute perfection, particularly in Enter the Dragon. Ryan Matthew Ziegler. Arnold will always be my overall favorite. I don't know if you would count Charles Bronson as an action star in the traditional sense, but I'm a massive fan. Over the past few years or so, I've become a Dwayne Johnson fan as well. In terms of that, a big budget, popular Hollywood personality action hero. Martial arts star is easily Scott Adkins. He has it all. On an old school level, I grew up watching the dozens of Don the Dragon Wilson direct-to-video movies in the 90s. I also love the handful of Sho Kuzugi titles from the 80s. Ron Munster, Scott Adkins is a badass for sure. Rye Guy, favorite actor, Al Pacino. See, these are mess ups, so I'm not going to read them. But martial artists, he has Van Damme and Bruce Lee. Donald Plett, Schwarzenegger, Christina Rothwell, Fred Williamson, Jackie Chan, Tony Jaa, Gene Paul, Joe Talism, and then we tells him. And then Lacey Liu, does 90s Nick Cage count? And I guess he does, right? Con Air and Iraq and Gone in 60 Seconds and Face Off. It's a handful. Derek B., Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jet Li. Hero and Fearless are amazing. Mike Merriman, action star, Arnold. Chow Yun-fat, martial arts star, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee. Dustin Mills, action star, Arnold, martial arts, Jackie Chan. Jeffrey Lee, Arnold, martial artist, Donnie Yen. And I think somebody else repeated that. I think it was Melody. I can't think. She agrees with Jeffrey Lee. Jay Wall, for me growing up, it was basically about two guys, Van Damme and Seagal. They were the big guys like Stallone and Arnold, but they had more bang in their flicks. They were lowers too, like Wincott and Brandon Lee. Even before The Crow, he had two awesome. Again, I forgot to put Seymour. I think he's two awesome movies. I think he's probably going to go with Rapid Fire and Big Trouble in Little China. Or Big Trouble in Little Time. Showdown in Little Tokyo. Sorry about that. Got those two mixed up. King Gross. Brandon Lee should have changed action. Gotta think martial arts tougher. Matthew Hudson. For action, I would have to go with Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's just simply not a movie he made up in the made up to the mid-90s that I don't enjoy on some level. Martial artists, well, I'm going to have to go with Daniel and Carlos Pisana. They did motion capture for the original Mortal Kombat and appeared in Press Start, a low-budget movie based on video game tropes. Jason Kleberg, recently, we got Iko Uwadas, Joshua Bone, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yorlek Dolphin, Cater Hoang. James Higgins, Stallone and Chan, Fred Altman, both will have to be Mark Dukakis for me. Gary Daniels falls a close second. Todd Summers, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a toss-up between Statham and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Shane Glass, Clint Eastwood, Chuck Norris, Tom Brunner, Dolph Lundgren, and Mark Dukakis. Bex Botwin, Arnold for action. Put Arnold for action, and Cynthia Rothrock for martial arts actor. Okay, so mine, I'll just go Arnold. I always big Arnold fan on action. And for martial arts, that's a tough one. Geez. I don't really know. I'd have to pick. I don't have like a fan. I like Scott Adkins right now, so I'll go Scott Adkins. I've watched a lot of his stuff. But Arnold for action, 100%. So comments. Don Concaro. Okay, I legit LO'd at the clandestine. I still can't do it. Clandestine. Bit. Holy shit. Also need Monster / on campus inside of me. It looks amazing. Incarnate, I don't hold it against you that you don't watch many other YouTubers. I mean, you gotta have some time to watch actual movies, no? And I thought them changing the title to having hoarders in it was ridiculous. Makes me think that the TV show are people literally gathering worthless junk. Give us collectors some frickin' dignity. It's not like we're collecting old newspaper and empty milk cartons. No shit, right? David Lather, I have had my perv card since watching Mondo Kani from backseat of my parents' car at the drive-in. Ilk Vomit, so glad you like Seeding of a Ghost. The witch who turns Luke back into a boy at the end isn't in the book. She was created for the movies. Talking about the witches. Born to be Rad, great stuff, dude. Been watching for years. Thank you. And Carson Morton, gotta say I 100% agree with you on Ginger Dead Man. Even Gary Busey couldn't make that one interesting. Ilk Vomit, I love Maggie Q. Her Nakata series is easily one of my top favorite shows of all time. What is it about her that frightens you? She's super small, and I'm sure you and Dave can take her. That was a reply to Peekaboo in the early. Sorry. So basically, the question of the week will be as follows. What kind of stuff do you want to see on the show? Do you want to see skits, better intros for segments, better editing, scripted reviews, certain types of movies, movie essays? What do you guys want to see? Just let me know. No more mistakes. Yeah. So just let me know what you guys would like to see in improvements on the show. I'll try to make some of that work. I know I didn't have the segments for the blind spot just because I felt weird about making a segment for movies that I haven't seen. It just felt weird. Yeah, so anyways, I guess we're going to hop into the update. Okay, hop into this update. First up is the Giant Behemoth, which I just ordered on Amazon. Yeah, I didn't order from the Warner Archive sale, which I probably should have since it's going to be the last one, right? So, Giant Behemoth, I think it's a 50s giant monster movie. Not seen it. We got Faces of Death on Blu-ray. I try to get all the video nasties on Blu-ray. Been a long time since I watched this movie. I don't know how many times I'm going to revisit it, but yeah, kind of had to have it. I don't know why, because I'm dumb. Then we have The Curse of the Cat People from Scream Factory. Sequel to Cat People, of course. Not seen this one. And then, of course, to go with that, we have Eye of the Cat, which I've not seen either. Scream Factory again. And another Scream, or maybe this one's Shout, 8mm. Joel Schumacher. I've not seen this movie since it came out. I remember having a good cast, though, and I remember it being kind of interesting. It's been a long time since I definitely want to check this one out again. So, yeah. And then we have another Scream Factory. See, I hate this because a lot of times I order from Target and all the stuff looks like it's been resealed. Like, so if these are ever damaged, like this is the worst reseal job ever. It just looks like it has bubble wrap all over it. It's Cursed to Werewolf, classic movie. But like, I wonder if the discs were rattling, somebody sent them back and they just resealed them. I don't know if that's the case, but it just does not look good for them to do that or whatever. Then we have some more here. We have another one from the Target sale. Clint Eastwood play Misty for me. This is a Kino release. Not seen that one either. Then we have Positive ID, another Kino flick. It's supposed to be kind of a rape revenge movie where she like makes another identity and goes undercover. Sounded cool. Then we have The Don is Dead with Anthony Quinn. Mobster flick by Richard Fleischer. Also got Frederick Forrest, Robert Forster, Al Lettieri in it. Probably pretty cool. Not heard much about this. A lot of these movies no one ever talks about anymore. So I don't know anything about them. I've never seen them myself. So then we have the Choirboys. This has a great cast in here. Charles Durning, Lou Gossett Jr., Perry King, Randy Quaid, Don Stroud, James Woods, Burt Young. It looks like Stephen Mach is in the front there too. So that's a fantastic cast. Never seen this one. Looks like a comedy, kind of possibly action in there. So yeah. And then we got some cheapies here. We got Sleepy Hollow. You know what? I've never finished this movie. Tim Burton movie. Yeah. Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman. Lost After Dark. Slasher throwback kind of deal. Never seen this one either. I had the DVD, but for the price on Blu-ray, I ended up grabbing it. Robert Patrick. Love him. Bait 3D. This looked ridiculously fun, so I grabbed it. I don't know if it's any good, but hey, it never stopped me before. Some people say it's pretty good. I hope it's just not like purposely bad. Then we have The Last House on the Left. The remake. Got it for a good price. Never been too big of a fan of this one, but I'm willing to give it another shot. Then we got Doom, unrated extended edition on Blu-ray with The Rock and Carl Urban. And last we have Disturbia, which I've never actually seen. Obviously a take on Rear Window. With Shia LaBeouf. I think David Morris is in it. So yeah, guess we're going to hop back to the video, guys. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.